What's quorum? Quorum is 5? Quorum is how many? We have 5.
Are you chairman?
Thanks, Warren. Are we ready? Good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board. We are residents of Coral Gables and are charged with the preservation and protection of historic or architecturally worthy buildings, structures, sites, neighborhoods, and artifacts, which impart a distinct historical heritage of the city. The board is comprised of 9 members, 7 of whom are appointed by the commission, 1 by the city manager, and the 9th is selected by the board and confirmed by the commission. 5 members of the board constitute a quorum, and 5 affirmative votes are necessary for the adoption of any motion. Any person who acts as a lobbyist pursuant to the City of Coral Gables Ordinance Number 2006-11 must register with the city clerk prior to engaging in lobbying activities or presentations before city staff, boards, committees, and/or the city commission. A copy of the ordinance is available in the office of the city clerk. Failure to register and provide proof of registration shall prohibit your ability to present to the Historic Preservation Board on applications under consideration this afternoon. Lobbyist is defined as an individual, corporation, partnership, or other legal entity employed or retained, whether paid or not, by a principal who seeks to encourage the approval, the disapproval, adoption, repeal, passage, defeat, or modifications of any ordinance, resolution, action, or decision of any city commissioner, any action, decision, recommendation of the city manager, any city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial advisory board, trust, authority, or council, or any action, decision, or recommendation of city personnel during the time period of the entire decision-making process on the action, decision, or recommendation, which foreseeably will be heard or reviewed by the city commission or a city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial advisory board, trust, authority, or council. Presentations made to this board are subject to the city's false claims ordinance, chapter 39 of the City of Coral Gables City Code. I now officially call the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation meeting of April 20th, 2022 to order. The time is 4:05. Present today are Member Aaron Haft, Member Spain, Member Rolando, Member Maxwell, Member Fullerton, and myself, Cesar Garcia Pons, Chair of the committee today, Vice Chair. First item of business, approval of minutes. The next item agenda is approval of minutes in the meeting held on, that was March 16th. Are there any changes or corrections? Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Member Spain. Second by the chair. Any discussion? The chair can second, I just can't make a motion. Is there a second? That was me. Call for a roll, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Are there any announcements of deferral or agenda items? Miss.
No, not today.
Thank you, Kara. Notice to ex parte communications. Please be advised that this board is a quasi-judicial board and the items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature, which requires board members to disclose all ex parte communications An ex parte communication is defined as any contact, communication, conversation, correspondence, memorandum, or other written or verbal communication that takes place outside a public hearing between a member of the public and a member of the quasi-judicial board regarding matters to be heard by the quasi-judicial board. If anyone has made any contact with a board member when the issue comes before the board, the member must state on the record the existence of the ex parte communication, the party who originated the communication, and whether the communication will affect the board member's ability to impartially consider the evidence to be presented regarding the matter. Does any member of the board have such a communication disclosed at this time?
I was going to use this one.
Swearing in. Mr. City Attorney? If any persons in the audience will be testifying today, please rise to be sworn in. Anybody who is providing sworn testimony, please stand and raise your right hand. If you want to talk, if you're going to be speaking on an item being deliberated before the board, it's going to be sworn testimony. You can.
You never know.
Thank you. First item, ad valorem tax relief. This is an application requesting ad valorem tax relief for the property at 711 University Drive, a local historic landmark, legally described as Lot 11 and south half of Lot 10, Block 137, Coral Gables Country Club, Section Part 6, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 20 at page 1 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. The related Special Certificate of Appropriateness, COA SP 2017-006, was granted design approval by the Historic Preservation Board on June 15th, 2017.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, don't we have to excuse those people that aren't here? Or-
Just about to do that.
Is there, staff, is there anybody that wishes to be excused for today's meeting?
Yes, Javier Durana, Alicia Bacabig, and I'm missing Albert Menendez, of course. All are out of the city.
Is there a motion to excuse the absences?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Rolando, seconded by Mr. Maxwell.
We might have a little problem. I don't see the clicker for the PowerPoint presentation down here. Well, he can hear me, unless this is it. Hold on, let's try it. Yes. Oh, this is it. Awesome. Okay. So the property at 711 University Drive, significant as an excellent example of the Mediterranean Revival architectural style. It was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Kara.
Still an excellent example. It was designed by Phineas Paste for Edwin Gilbert and Ethel Merrick Bishop, who is the younger sister of city founder George Merrick. It was designated in 2017. It was approved, the work that you're about to see was approved as part of COA SP 2017-006. The project is substantially complete, so you're reviewing Part 2 now. This is a photo from the 1940s that unfortunately doesn't show you much, and then the rendering of the original permit down below from Phineas Paste. So as I'm going to go through the befores and afters, they're pretty apparent which ones are the befores and which ones are the afters. Overall shot here, and then I'm going to walk you around the building while I'm telling you what they've done. So new impact-resistant casement, windows, and doors to match the original configuration, new two-piece barrel tile, and repair replacement of damaged and rotten wood structural members, new stucco finish and stucco repair, painting of the house, new MEP systems, replacement of the south front facade balconette railings and iron window grille. They reintroduced the second floor loggia that you see right here in this photograph, including the wood railings that match the existing found on the house. Enclosure of an existing rear second floor loggia, retaining the original wood railings, repair of the wood rafter ends, various structural improvements, demolition of later inappropriate additions, that you'll see right here. The rear facades, paving, gates, and pool, replacement of interior and exterior stone terracotta tile flooring, complete interior reconfiguration. Interior restoration also included the replication of missing iron railing in the living room, as you'll see shortly, repair of existing wood window grille, which you'll also see, retention of the stained glass windows, restoration of original ironwork, restoration of the Pecky cypress elements, including the tower ceiling, and the restoration of the interior doors. They did do a one-story addition at the southwest corner of the residence, location of an existing opened screened porch that you see right there with the red awning. They also did a one-story addition at the west side of the wing of the residence that flanks Palmerito Street, containing a half-bathroom covered terrace with built-in bar on the first floor and an outdoor staircase that you saw previously. This is the second floor roof terrace. Site improvements, new paver driveway and walkways, installation of new swimming pool and deck, restoration of the existing finial on the roof, installation of new landscaping, new walls, fence, and gates. And these are just some interior shots, which usually don't count towards the ad valorem, but it's just such a stark contrast that I wanted to show it to you because they're really lovely. This is the original living room, looking both directions. That's the railing that was replicated, the grille that was replicated, the ceiling that was restored, the original staircase. And then, they restored interior doors, and that's it, which says a lot. You had a very thorough package that was submitted by the owner, one of the most thorough that I've ever seen, so we appreciate it. And she's there in the audience if you'd like to say anything to her. Or
This was a house that I passed every day on my way to work and never noticed. And it's a magnificent home, but I didn't notice it because it didn't have the character that it has now, even though everything is still there, everything was put back appropriately. It was on the tour of kitchens. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you,
it
Karen.
previously kind of faded into the
trees, the
into the
banyan.
streetscape. You could hardly see it even.
When she came to the department with her architect to do I thought, where is this house?
Yeah.
I'm driving past the Phineas Paste house and not realizing it, but she did a beautiful job.
Does the owner wish to speak at all, or want us to keep going? Thank you. If you're going to speak, you need to speak in the mic, so thank you. Thank you very much.
She has nothing to add.
Thank you.
Than everything she's already done.
All right.
As a point of information, I noticed the stairwell revision, or not revision, but redoing, and the handrail on the stairwell. Does that handrail have to meet a code? I mean, I noticed that the spindles, the verticals are much more than 4 inches.
No,
Not that I want to change them or anything, I'm just wondering for a point of interest.
As a restoration, it's existing
Yeah.
to remain? No.
Okay,
I think if they had removed it, if they put it back, then they would have had to meet code.
I see, okay.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, we recommend approval, obviously.
Is there anyone?
I'd like to move approval.
Let me do public comment,
Well,
if you don't mind. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this case?
We can speak too?
In favor of?
I do.
Please, come up to the microphone.
Just going along.
Please come up to the microphone and state
Sorry.
your name and address, please.
Eric Sartor, 3613 Alhambra Court.
Thank you.
Just want to go along with Mrs. Spain. I used to have a house on Montserrat nearby, and it was a complete disaster before. And it's true that she did a fabulous job. So I'm not sure what she's asking for, what's the ad, but
The tax.
seems like she deserves it.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comment. Is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to this case? Okay, I'm closing the public hearing. Bringing it back to the board. Does anybody have any further discussion or would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, because it has been a beautiful job, and it was a big job too, I'm sure. Anyway, I move approval and congratulations to the owners.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'd like to second, if I may.
Great.
I
There's-
too knew the house. I lived at Toledo and Escobar from 1991 until 2015. So I was a neighbor, and it was a house that, even when it was not in its pristine restored state, it was a phenomenal house. You could see it, and it makes me very happy to see. And thank you for sharing all of these details. The care that you put into everything, exterior and interior, is phenomenal. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Fullerton, a second by Mr. Ehrenhaft. We can call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes. Thank you. Next case, case file LHD 2022-001, consideration of the local historic designation of the property at 3613 Alhambra Court, legally described as lots 31 to 33 inclusive, Block 50, Coral Gables Country Club, Section Part 4, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 10 at page 57 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida.
Thank you. If you could play the second PowerPoint, please.
The property at 3613 Alhambra Court is before you for consideration for designation as a local historic landmark. This is the result of a Board of Architects directive for a historic significance determination. As per Article 8, Section 8-103 of the Coral Gables Zoning Code, criteria for designation of historic landmarks, a local historic landmark must have significant character, interest, or value as part of a historical, cultural, archaeological, aesthetic, or architectural heritage of the city, state, or nation. For designation, a property must meet one of the criteria outlined in the code. 3613 Alhambra Court is eligible as a local historic landmark based on 3 significance criteria. Historical cultural significance, criteria 4. It exemplifies the historical, cultural, political, economic, or social trends of the community. Architectural significance, criteria 1. It portrays the environment and era of history characterized by one or more architectural style. Criteria 2. It embodies those distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style or period or method of construction. The home was permitted in 1940 by architect William Merriam. It was designed in the modernistic style of Art Moderne for Frank Slack. After several seasons of renting in Coral Gables, Frank Slack built a winter residence at 3613 Alhambra Court in 1940. Both Frank and his wife Mary Gale were avid golfers, and the newspapers joked that Frank knew it was time to winter in the South after she was featured in a central Pennsylvania newspaper golfing in a ski suit, as seen here in the photo on the right. Hence, it is no surprise that they chose the lot at 3613 Alhambra Court as it backed onto the Miami Biltmore Golf Course. It was amongst the first homes built on the course. The Slacks lived in central Pennsylvania, where Frank served as the Dauphin County Commissioner for 16 years, from 1935 to 1952. Slack was trained as an architect and later shifted to construction and the engineering side of the field. In 1917, he became a construction superintendent for the Central Construction Corporation, and by 1925, he was the president and treasurer, and remained so for the next several decades. Coral Gables' developmental history is divided into 3 major historical periods. George Merrick founded it in the early 1920s based on his vision for a fully conceived Mediterranean-inspired city. The architecture constructed during this initial period combined elements commonly used in Spanish, Moorish, and Italian architecture and has come to be known as the Mediterranean Revival style. During the 1920s, structures and amenities were built almost exclusively in accordance with this style. The construction of the Slacks home at 3613 Alhambra Court occurred during the city's second developmental period, during the New Deal era, when the city began to embrace contemporary styles. In Coral Gables, the dire downturn in the economy coming so closely on the heels of the devastating 1926 hurricane had a drastic impact on new construction and ended the city's first historic period. You can see here the precipitous dollar value decline of permits issued in the late 1920s. With the implementation of New Deal and other incentives, the building industry finally experienced a small resurgence in the late 1930s and early 40s. However, it abruptly ground to a halt during the war years as materials and expertise and manpower were diverted to the war effort. As you can see in the bar graph, in Coral Gables there were only several hundred single-family homes built during this era. As construction in Coral Gables tried to regain its footing, it shifted away from the elaborate and embellished Mediterranean Revival style of the 1920s towards a simpler and more modern designs that reflected the new aesthetic and the priorities of society. The homes built during Coral Gables' second historical period were unique, transitional, and most were in the modernistic aesthetic. They represent a turning point in Coral Gables' architectural history. 3613 Alhambra Court was one of the few high-style Art Moderne modistic homes built in the city. The modernistic styles were distinctly different from the eclectic and revivalist styles that preceded it. Modernistic styles emphasized sleek lines with machine-aged geometric decorative elements. The early form of the modernistic styles was Art Deco, a creative but short-lived movement that permeated all modes of the arts, from architecture to decorative to fashion. Art Deco was common in public and commercial buildings, but rarely used in domestic architecture. Art Moderne, or Streamline Moderne, is a later type of the modernistic styles. As the Great Depression progressed, the modernistic styles changed. It became more austere, less ornamented, and more streamlined with a horizontal emphasis. Streamlining was a concept first conceived by industrial designers who favored the aerodynamic, pure line concept of motion and speed. Hence, the sharp angles and vertical emphasis of the Art Deco were replaced with simple aerodynamic curves and the horizontality of the Art Moderne. This later type emphasizes smooth surfaces, curving forms, long horizontal lines, and sometimes nautical elements. Cylindrical forms, long horizontal window groupings, glass block, and an emphasis on geometry are all hallmark features. Modernistic styles were used most often in public and commercial buildings. Hence, this home represents both the somewhat rare domestic use of Art Moderne, as well as the architectural turning point in Coral Gables as it's embraced other styles. Furthermore, given the economy during the second historic phase, there were few higher-end homes built. This was one. The home exhibits extensive character-defining features of the Art Moderne, some of which are listed here. The next several slides will illustrate some of the features as well as call out some of the home's alterations. A full discussion of the extant home is found in the designation report. Please keep in mind that staff did not have access to the property, so the photos are limited to those supplied by the owner, found online, or taken from the public right away. William Merriam was a Coral Gables-based architect who trained in the 1920s with H. George Fink, who was a member of Merrick's original design team. Hence, Merriam was well-versed in Mediterranean Revival style and Merrick's vision for the city. Merriam's work during the 1930s and the early 1940s embraced modernistic aesthetic while paying tribute to the city's foundational style. With this home, Merriam chose to employ Art Moderne in a manner that is aesthetically blended with other comparable Mediterranean Revival homes from the 1920s, rather than being in stark contrast to them. This home is a significant example of the interpretation of Art Moderne in this Mediterranean-inspired city. The photo shown here is from the early 1940s and shows the home shuttered for the summer months. Ships, trains, and automobiles were the inspiration for the streamlined Art Moderne. Commercial and public buildings, as seen in the images on the right, tended towards a more literal interpretation of this inspiration. In the less common residential examples, the inspiration was more subtle and figurative, as aptly seen in 3613 Alhambra Court. Bowed projections and rounded corners are hallmark features of the Art Moderne. In this home, Miriam loosely suggests a ship with its two-story cylindrical projection, with its large curved glass block window and its chimney reminiscent of a smokestack. Vegetation unfortunately precludes one from seeing the full effect of this arrangement. These photos give various glimpses of that curved bay that contains the stairwell, as seen in the photo on the right. Glass block is a character-defining feature of the Art Moderne. It was first introduced to the American public in 1933 Chicago Century of Progress exhibition. In addition to the large curved glass block feature, the home also retains another original glass block window, which is circled in red in the bottom slides. While the core portion of the home is
Can you restart the PowerPoint from the current slide, please? Can you go back one? I believe you skipped a slide as well.
Horizontal emphasis is another character-defining feature of the Art Moderne. The home at 3613 stretches nearly the full width of the 150-foot lot, with a two-story central core and a series of one-story bays. The horizontal nature of the home is further accentuated by the series of low-pitched roofs with very wide eaves and a number of horizontal decorative features. While the core portion of the home is 2 stories, it gives the impression of a lower-slung home. It has the visual impact of 1.5 stories rather than its actual 2, due to the arrangement of features on the facade. A prominently projecting molded string course runs at approximately the 1.5-story level. The smooth stucco facade aids in emphasizing the string course. The windows of the upper story are smaller and sit on the string course, taking the place of a sill. The low-pitched roofs further add to the forced perspective of a lower home. Also adding to this impression is the 1.5-story entry feature, which has the visual impact of making the lower 1.5-story read as 1 story and the upper story reading as a half story. The front entry assemblage is the most ornamented element of the home. With the modernistic stylized ziggurat surround, it has a strong sculptural quality. A series of symmetrical receding stepped architrave frames and smooth stucco lead to the deeply inset front door. The entablature above is natively sourced coral rock with a geometric and floral bas-relief ornamentation, which imparts added geometric interest to the front facade. The string course defines the upper limit of this element and projects to form a round corner sill shelf for the second-story deeply inset windows. Framing the sides of the windows are scalloped bas-relief in smooth stucco. The steps, entry landing, and small terrace are also of coral rock. Immediately next to the front entry is a pair of windows deeply inset with a flared opening. An elegant swooped hood in a smooth stucco projects above the pair. Below is a molded projecting sill. These elements contribute to the horizontality of the facade and balance the entry feature. These photos provide a view of some of the details not visible in the previous slide. Note the depth of the window and door openings. They have the appearance of being cut out and add to the geometric nature of the home. The other primary defining feature of this portion of the home is the rectangular 2.5-story chimney that pierces through the roof with its west face flush with the front facade to its north. The chimney top is flared with a series of horizontal raised and incised lines, creating a cornice-like terminal horizontality to this vertical element. To the south of the chimney, the second story is stepped back, while the roof line is maintained, hence giving the impression that a cube was cut out of its corner and providing additional geometric impact to the front facade. A string course also runs along this section, but at a lower height, drawing the eye down from this vertical element. As seen in the floor plan, at the northern end of the home is a garage whose vehicular entry is at the rear. On the front and the side facades of the garage are original long modernistic horizontal masonry screens with decorative geometric pattern. Their locations are denoted by the orange arrows. It appears that the later fences and gates on the property were patterned after these original modernistic panels. There have been no substantial changes to the style of the home. While there have been a number of additions, they are all on the rear of the home and do not substantially impact the style of the home. The major character-defining features and the street presence remain intact. Alterations to the home, for the most part, attempted to respect the Art Moderne style. Primary alterations to the front of the home include a change of roof tile from flat to S-tile in 2016. At an unknown date, it appears that the material of the front entry may have been altered. In the 1940s historic photo, it reads as if the receding framework around the front door was also coral rock, or perhaps marbleized to give that appearance. It is now a smooth stucco. Recently, the original casement windows were replaced with hurricane impact windows, whose mutton pattern kept the memory of the fenestration pattern. During this campaign, one window on the front facade was infilled with glass block. It is circled here in red. There were 3 addition campaigns to the rear of the home. The first in 1962 was a 181-square-foot Florida room by the original architect William Merriam. It was 1-story, flat-roofed, filling in the rear nook of the original L-shaped 2-story portion. It is denoted here in orange. In 2001, the flat roof of this addition was converted to a 2nd-story open-air terrace. In 1998, a 221-square-foot addition was constructed along the northeast portion of the rear. It's denoted here in purple. This addition is under a hipped roof that rises slightly higher than the original street-side gabled roof it sits behind. In 2001, there were 2 new additions, a 1-story flat-roofed bedroom at the southeast corner, and a 1.5-story cylindrical breast-fixed nook attached to the southeast corner of the 1998 edition. These are denoted here in blue. Here is the rear facade of the home with the additions highlighted in the floor plan. In 2001, along with the additions noted in blue, the rear fenestration was converted to a series of clear-view French doors that form a modern horizontal band across the rear facade. Along with the cylindrical breakfast nook and the rounded glass block southeast corner, which is shown in the next slide, This was reportedly done with the intent of producing the 21st century nod to the art moderne. The photo on the left is the 2001 edition at the southeast corner of the home. You can see that once again the design of the edition was acknowledging the style of the original home with its rounded full-height curved glass block corner, the banded cornice parapet, and the rounded corners of the doorway. The photo on the right is a view looking north along the rear facade. Note the rounded corners of the second-story terrace. This is a view from the second-story terrace showing the rear yard layout and its view of the golf course. And a final view from the back patio of the Biltmore Hotel and the golf course. In conclusion, designed by architect William Merriam in 1940, the single-family residence at 3613 Alhambra Court was one of the first homes built along the golf course and is one of a handful of homes built in the city in the modernistic Art Moderne style. This style emphasized curving forms, sleek and smooth surfaces with long horizontal lines. While this home is clearly Art Moderne, it is also influenced by the Mediterranean Revival style and is a significant example of the interpretation of Art Moderne in this Mediterranean-inspired city. Comparison of original permits, historic photos, and building records with the extant property indicate this residence retains its historic integrity. Thus, the property at 3613 Alhambra Court contributes to the historic fabric of the city of Coral Gables and is part of a collection of quality residences that serves as a visible reminder of the history and the cultural heritage of the city. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the local historic designation of the property at 3613 Alhambra Court based on its historical, cultural, and architectural significance.
Does staff wish to say anything else beyond
No,
the
we have
presentation?
I just want to tell you about the letters that you have on the dais, I believe. 5 letters that were submitted in support. Do you have them?
We do not.
Okay, I thought they were printed for you. Never mind. I will read them into the record then. We have received 5 letters in support of the application. The first is from Mary Burke on 1243 Astoria. Would you like me to read them fully into the record, or would you like me to just include them in the file?
I would like you to read them into the record.
Dear members of the Historic Preservation Board, please designate historic 6313 Alhambra Court. Let us affirm and validate the distinctive architectural styles that have made Coral Gables a sought-after place to live. Unless we keep a large percentage of the homes constructed in our early history, we will lose our unique heritage and one of the main reasons we are valued as a place to live and work. I support the granting of historical designation to 3613 Alhambra Court as per the recommendation of the city's Historic Resources Department. Architect William Merriam, the designer of this residence, was a Coral Gables-based architect who trained in the 1920s with a member of Merrick's original design team, H. George Fink. Hence, Merriam was well-versed in the Mediterranean Revival style, and his work during the late 30s and early 40s often incorporated features from it. Many of his homes from this period, like this house, embrace the modernistic aesthetic while paying tribute to the city's foundational style. Please preserve our heritage. The next is from Sandra Skidmore, 100 Lincoln Road. Dear members of the Historic Preservation Board, I wish to express my support in granting historical designation for 3613 Alhambra Court as per the recommendation of the city's Historic Resources Department. Architect William Merriam, the designer of the residence, was a Coral Gables-based architect who trained in the 20s with a member of Merrick's original design team, H. George Fink. Hence, he was well-versed in the Mediterranean Bible style, and his work during the 30s and 40s often incorporated features from it. Many of his homes from this period, like 3613 Alhambra Court, embrace the modernistic aesthetic while paying tribute to the city's foundational style. Zuli Pardo, 49 Campina Court. Dear Historic Preservation Board, we wish to express our support for the designation of the single-family residence located at 3613 Alhambra Court, designed by renowned Coral Gables architect William Merriam in the Art Moderne style. The residence was one of the first to be built along the Biltmore Golf Course with a unique modern aesthetic. Today, this home has retained its historic integrity and contributes to our city's historical essence. There's one from the Historic Preservation Association of Coral Gables. On behalf of the Historic Preservation Association of Coral Gables, please accept this letter in support of the historic designation for 3613 Alhambra Court as recommended by the city's preservation staff. This residence was designed in 1940 by acclaimed Coral Gables architect William Merriam in the Art Moderne style. Overall construction during this period was sparse, and this home is an important representation of this era when the few homes that were built were unique, transitional, and mostly in the modernistic aesthetic. This residence was one of the first homes built along the golf course, yet to this day retains its historic integrity and significantly contributes to the historic fabric of Coral Gables as a pristine example of the Art Moderne architecture of Coral Gables. As such, please accept this letter in support of staff's recommendation to designate 3613 Alhambra Court as a local historic landmark. And finally, from Brett Gillis, dear members of the HP Board, please accept this letter in support of 3613 Alhambra Court. The detailing of this home is really superb, a triumph for the Depression era when so little construction was taking place. I look at the list of other Art Moderne and modernistic structures that have already been designated in Coral Gables and did not see how this board in good faith could turn this one down. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you.
Is the property owner here and wishes to speak? Please. Name and address, please.
Eric Sartor, 3613 Alhambra Court. First of all, I want to say that the Ferrari in the garage, that's not mine. In the picture, I don't drive a Ferrari. That's from the previous owner. I wanted to make that clear.
You have the Lamborghini.
I wish. Actually, we're here because we didn't ask for the designation. We were here because the Board of Architects, we had planned to do in an addition, and we actually had the pre-approval from the Board of Architects in 2019, a few years ago. Mainly, we wanted to do an extra bedroom upstairs and raise maybe a little bit the ceilings. So some years went back, we never went through with it just because it wasn't exactly what we wanted to do. And we didn't like the architect that we were working with, so we went out and get a proper architect who's here today, Julian Quinn, who came up with a much nicer design that embraces the house, because we love this house. I mean, I'm from France. I love everything, Art Deco, and they don't speak too much in the presentation, but, I really see the door, Art Deco, and all that stuff. So that's why we bought the house in the first place, right? So, I'm here. I understand that, some people tell me that it would be great to get the historic, but then, some people tell me it might restrict what we do, So, if I do get the historic designation, can we still do an addition to the second floor? Like, that's my main question is that, can we still, would you guys approve something? We have, like, the design, you have, right?
So what I can do is, there is a process, which I'll let staff explain a little bit, that the designation does not preclude you from doing any work or additions. It would just require a review by staff and this board, but I'll let the staff explain it a little bit further.
Yeah. So the board's sole focus at this meeting is to determine whether or not the property meets the criteria for designation. Then at a subsequent meeting, you can apply, if they decide to designate, you can apply for a certificate of appropriateness to find out whether or not they think it's appropriate after meeting with us, and we can help guide you through the process to, we don't ever say you can't do an addition, we just want it to be sympathetic and in keeping with the historic architecture of the house.
Okay. And that's what I understand, but it's very vague for me, right? Like, I'm a little bit worried. I mean, I would love to get the designation, like, it sounds great, like, on paper, like, I have a historic house, like, wonderful, and I feel I have a historic house anyways, but I'm worried that, later, if when we're presenting, like, the second floor addition, you say, wait, that's going to change the facade, and then, we have pictures from 1940s, then the house is not going to, although we do not want to touch the facade existing, right? We just want to add a second floor where there's only one floor, right? And we would completely embrace the existing, like, we would try to kind of match. So, yeah, I'm a little confused. I'm sorry.
So some of the good news is we do this, as you know, every month, and we get special certificate of appropriatenesses every month, and we get historic properties in the city that come forward for a special certificate of appropriateness based on a project every month. So it's not like it's not atypical. The specific things that we look at right now, you'd have to go to the Board of Architects for review. We would just be another board to make sure that it doesn't impact the historic nature of the building negatively. And again, this happens every meeting, and the board is very helpful, and staff is incredibly helpful at making sure that you have an application that by the time it gets to us is in good shape. So it's not a hindrance specifically of your what you can do to the building. It just wants to make sure that if it is designated and it is worthy of being designated, that we respect the original intent of the architecture. And it sounds like you are going to do that, but we can't look at it today.
Right.
I don't know if staff has already had a chance to look at this.
So I believe that Warren has met with.
I met with Warren, the gentleman over here. It was great, so he was very helpful, So, but then his point of view, well, we met first with the city architect, right? Who he said, well, you need to see with the board, right? And then the city architect seems to be okay with our second floor, but then from the recommendation from Warren, he's like, if you do get that historic designation, maybe the facade, you won't be able to do the second floor. Maybe you'll do the extension in the back, which I really don't, because I have 3 children and we live in the back. Like, I don't want to go and extend our house in the back and take the garden from my kids, right? Like, I want to take where, like, the house is set up, like, there's 1 floor here and the second floor here. Like, I'm just, like, proposing to do kind of like the second floor. And it's all hidden by trees, by the way, that whole area. It doesn't show too much on the picture. But I'm worried that they say, no, you can't do that because that's the 1940 facade. And why don't you go?
There are ways that you can do that this board has approved in the past. Maybe it's a separation showing that it's clearly an addition. I can't comment, and we can't look at it now.
Right.
But
So
there are ways that has been done before. It may or may not be able to be done.
Yeah, and I apologize if I'm, over my bounds here. I'm just, it's like I feel it's like a major decision for, my life, and because I want my kids to have this house too. So like it could be a generational impact of having this certification, and I really don't know if I do want it. I'm worried, right? Like,
So the Board of Architects directed them to come to you.
And did it go to the board
It
or
did,
the
and
city architect?
it did not get discussed by them. They directed
Okay, I
it
see.
to us.
Well, that's nice. So they have the
But they had-
historic nature,
But I believe they had concerns about some aspects of the
but
addition.
that,
So
they
which
would
is
have had
something
that anyway,
right, and that's
whether it's
something that
designated or not.
we can work with you on, and the city architect to sort of come to an understanding of what's appropriate and
So
what's not.
before we continue, I think we have sort of 2 things. One is we have an application with a referral and a staff recommendation. Our task today is the board is only going to look at is if this property is worthy of being designated historic. That is our only task for this afternoon.
okay.
Is there a time clock on this decision?
In terms of what? There is an
Does it
appeal
ha-
period if he wishes to appeal
But
any
if we don't
decision.
take a decision today, if there is a request for a deferral,
There's no official time clock, but it's I don't know how much it's holding up.
Why would you want,
I'm just thinking, the applicant or the owner, this is new. And I just want, and I know that staff has had conversations with hesitant owners in the past and have been able to allay their potential fears of the process.
Right.
I don't know if we already had those conversations or we need to have further ones. I think the board has enough information to act today. I want to give everyone the opportunity to think about it for a second, because you're right, once a decision is made, it is made.
Right.
yes, but at this point, it has to be made, right? I mean,
Well,
you
it
have a
wasn't a
designation.
significance determination, I don't believe, was it? No, it was just a direction from the board. He didn't.
Oh, I see.
Which is why I'm asking if there's a clock.
Do I still go like at the Board of Architects for my addition anyways, or
Yes.
Yes.
I do?
You go to both.
Then I go to both.
And what happens, let's say that it gets designated, and you want to go forward with that addition. It first goes to the Board of Architects, and they make comments like they did.
Right.
And then it would come to us with those comments. And so you go to both boards. The Board of Architects is a recommending board to this board. So you go there first, and then you come here with the addition.
Okay. And you guys have the final say
We do.
on,
From the point of the board, we don't care what your future plans are yet. We just determine whether it's historic or not.
right.
So it used to be that the owner had a say in the question. That no longer applies. But it seems that you have the right attitude about it, and you want it to be authentic.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that you're on the right track, and that with the help of the board, which is really, really helpful. They're good at what they do. So I think you'll come back with a good idea, and the architects board will help, and we will we'll help you move forward.
Okay. And the process is meeting with the staff first?
Yes.
And
Yes.
before we meet with you
Yeah.
guys?
Well, I would have your architect, and you go to them with some ideas of what you have in mind.
Okay.
So they have some response to the ideas that you present.
And in addition, like another floor on a historic property has been done already before?
Many,
right?
many times.
Many times.
Yeah.
And again, we do this every month, and staff is very good at their jobs to help our residents. Again, we're residents too. So,
Right,
we want to make sure that it works for everybody.
I'm a resident of Coral Gables 22 years. Proud.
Very nice.
I've been 52 years.
Okay.
And-
That's good. That's good.
You win.
And I will tell you, in the time I used to work for the city, and in all of that time, I don't think I ever saw a project that wasn't made better by coming to this board, which was surprising to me when I first started working with the city. But this board is very helpful, and the Board of Architects, they have to be a registered architect for at least 10 years, and they either have to work or live in Coral Gables also. So everybody is committed to make a better project.
Okay.
So I don't think you can go wrong with being designated, but I'm biased.
Are there tax exemptions or tax ramifications for additions?
Yes, to locally historic designated properties, if there's a component of restoration work to the project, there's a tax abatement that's available for ad valorem taxes for a period of 10 years for city and county tax.
Is that what she was asking for?
Yes.
Like, and what's the tax relief? Like, what is it?
It's 10-year abatement of the increased value of your property based on the improvements that you've made. So it can be substantial, so.
And is there any like height restrictions when you become historic? Or
There's no specific restrictions,
There are height restrictions to
but
general
not
construction.
when it becomes
Not
historic.
related to us.
Oh, okay.
Just the general code.
Well, I appreciate your openness and your
appreciate you
feedback.
coming
here.
out.
Thank you. And I understand that this wasn't really the meeting, but thank you for taking
Thank you very
time.
much.
I did want to clarify something because I
Please.
misspoke. Because this was a significance determination, we were obligated to get the report to you within a certain number of days. If at the decision of the board with the mutual agreement of the owner, it can be deferred. It doesn't start or stop a clock.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, sir. I did have a question for staff on the March 1st letter, that it says per the application, there was a letter stating the property does not meet the criteria. Can you expound on that, please?
I don't know what letter you're talking about.
So on the application, it has historic significance determination on 125. And then I see that there is a second one that says on March 1st, 2022, there's a letter issued stating that the property does not meet the minimum criteria. Is that correct? Am I looking at the wrong project?
Mine says does meet. Up here?
Oh, okay, yeah. My misspoke.
Okay.
See, I don't have my
A
glasses
little
on.
panicked.
Oh, I appreciate
Wondering what you're
that.
saying?
God, and I actually read
No.
this. I had no idea what you were talking about.
Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. I swear I didn't have my glasses on.
Sounds like something I do.
Thank you. All right. Having heard from staff and the owner, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this case? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition of this case? Okay, hearing none, I'm closing the public hearing, bringing it back to the board for discussion. Anybody have any initial comments or thoughts? Questions for staff, questions to discuss with the board?
I have a real quick question, maybe. is out of order, but there have been additions to this house before and if we designate it now, are those additions, since they are acceptable, are those susceptible, would they be allowed to be included in the grant for tax?
You mean the money that they spent on doing those?
Yes,
No.
no.
It's a project that has to be approved via certificate of appropriateness, and the application has to be in before any work is done. So
Yeah.
it's not retroactive.
Anybody else? Ms. Rolando?
I think this is a magnificent house, really important. There's not that many Art Moderne houses, especially of this consequence in this location. I think it's pretty spectacular.
Great location, too.
Great. Is anybody interested in entertaining a motion?
I'll move the motion to accept it as a historic designation.
Moved by Mr. Maxwell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fullerton. Please call the roll.
Mr. Ehrenhaft,
Yes.
Ms. Rolando,
Yes,
Mr. Maxwell,
Yes.
Mr. Fullerton,
Yes.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons.
Yes, and we look forward to seeing the application when it comes back to us. Thank you.
Motion passes.
The next case file COA SP 2022-009, an application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 1264 Coral Way, a contributing resource within the Coral Way Historic District, legally described as lots 1 and 2, block 1, Coral Gables, section D, revised plat according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 25 at page 74 of the Public Records of the Miami-Dade County, Florida. The applicant is requesting design approval for a one-story addition to the residence and site work. Thank you, Mr.
The residence at 1264 Coral Way was permitted in 1924 prior to the incorporation of the city of Coral Gables. The architect is unknown. It's in the Mediterranean Revival style. In 2014, it was deemed a contributing resource within the Coral Way Historic District. 1264 Coral Way is one of 17 remaining residences built prior to 1926 in the district. In October 2016, the owner and architect appeared before the board for a discussion regarding the auxiliary structure that was originally a detached garage but had been converted into a guest house. The board determined that due to alterations, this structure could be removed. In 2018, the board approved with conditions a COA application for the construction of a 1- and 2-story addition to the rear of the property. The applicant is now here requesting design approval for a 1-story addition to the residence and site work. The addition will be to the east elevation and will consist of a family room with exterior patio. The proposed addition consists, it's 1 story. It will be to the east of the structure. And in order to accommodate this addition, an existing wood deck and 1-story wood frame covered patio structure with barrel tile shed roof will be demolished. The rectangular 1-story addition will contain a family room and exterior patio. Access from the existing house will be via 2 existing openings. The existing patio doors and the openings will be removed. The addition will be of concrete block and stucco and a flat roof with parapet. The north elevation will contain double casement window with fixed side lights. The impact of the proposed addition is most apparent on this elevation, which faces Coral Way, as the addition extends to the side of and is slightly higher than the existing den, making it visible from the right-of-way. The east elevation will contain 2 double casement windows, the south elevation 2 sets of folding doors. No variances have been requested. The proposal was reviewed and approved by the Board of by the city architect. In conclusion, the application requests design approval for an addition. It's to the side of the residence and will be visible from Caraway. However, it will be partially obscured by the existing one-storey den, and the flat roof helps to reduce its height and minimise the massing. Access to the addition from the existing structure will be via 2 existing openings. The proposed addition takes its cues from the existing residence, but it can be differentiated from the historic structure by the proposed light texture stucco, differing window light configuration, and the 2-inch stucco base. Staff is recommending a couple of conditions of approval. Window and door muntins shall be high profile dimensional, window and door glass shall be clear, and the stucco texture shall be similar to the texture applied to the other recent additions. Therefore, staff is recommending approval with conditions, and the property owners are here.
Thank you. Does the property owner wish to speak? Thank you.
Speak.
No, they don't have to.
Hi,
Oh,
you okay?
I don't wear them anymore. I actually can't get rid of them because I like them so much, but I don't wear them.
Same here. I love. Exactly, exactly. Oh my God, I should.
happens every time I wear them.
Look at them occasionally.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff on the application?
I can give her,
And my back.
Any questions for staff? Okay, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anybody in the public wish to speak in favor of this case? Anybody wish to speak in opposition to this case? Okay. Closing public hearing, bring it back to the board. Any discussion on this item?
The plans are pretty clear. I said plans are pretty clear. It's a large addition. It seems to go, according to the plans, it looks like it fits pretty well. And I noticed that the house has also been restored somewhat on the outside previously, which is really good, particularly the second floor windows where the reveals were opened up down below, and the very complementary fenestration that was put in. And everything seems to go. I walked by the house. It all looks good, and I think it'll be a real addition to the community.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the item?
I agree with that. And I've known Ms. Jackaway for a lot of years, and I know she does very good work, so I trust what she's got going. Pardon?
Is this another Mr. Fullerton motion?
I don't know. Is there somebody wish to make a motion on the item?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, moved by Mr. Maxwell,
I'll second.
seconded by
Is
Ms.
that with staff's under conditions?
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes, with staff, yes. Amend that with staff's conditions, excuse me.
Second.
As amended?
Thank you.
Mr. Maxwell,
Yes.
Ms. Orlando,
Yes,
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
Mr. Fullerton,
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhalf,
Yes,
Mr. Garcia Pond.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Okay,
All right, and we got one item.
for staff, I think we have all our items done. Are there any reports, updates, or items from the secretary to be presented? Is there a discussion item? I understand that there is a discussion item for today.
The proposal.
And,
Does staff wish to make any comments on the discussion item?
and you want these plans? You want the plans?
Thanks. Okay, this is we're looking for a recommendation to the City Commission for some amendments to the existing code. Article 8, historic preservation, and Article 14, process. And these changes are being made really to address some inconsistencies in the code, revise the designation process, make things a little bit clearer for people, give a little bit more time for property owners who maybe have had submitted for a determination request. We've decided that the property is eligible. We bring the report to the board. We want to give property owners a bit more time to receive that report, read that report, understand it, and get additional expert advice if they feel they need to. And so I can go through the changes individually if the board wishes, or you can just ask me any questions if there's anything unclear there. But the whole intent is to make things clearer, simpler, for the benefit of property owners and for the benefit of historic designations.
Well, I think the information is very clear. I appreciate the proposal that was provided to us. I think it would be helpful to maybe hit the bullets in case somebody's watching on TV.
Okay. So in the flow chart, there is an amendment to the flow chart to clarify the process for applicants where a designation application is not recommended for approval by staff. So someone submits a designation application, staff says, we do not believe this is eligible. This allows the applicant to proceed with the preparation and submittal of the designation report, and it really just clarifies the process in the flow chart to explain how that should be, really just to clarify the process. So there were just some changes made to the flow chart. Section 8-107, demolition. This is for when we receive a request for a determination of historic significance. The first change is staff must provide a response within 45 days. So we must provide a response. We'll try and do it earlier, but that gives us a deadline by when we must do that. This also requires the determination of eligibility to include the criteria considered in the review. Whereas the letters before just said is eligible, is not eligible. This requires us to put in the criteria which we believe it may be eligible under, but allows us the opportunity to change that in the final report after research. The next one is to require that a public hearing take place within 90 days of the determination. Currently, the letter allows 60 days, so if staff feels a property is eligible for designation, the report must be brought to you within 60 days. The reason we're changing that to 90 days is because later on in the code, we are now saying that we'll get the report to the applicant 14 days before the meeting to give them time to review it and take further advice if they need to. So to incorporate these 14 days, we're now giving ourselves 90 days before bringing it to the board. Section 8-104, designation procedures, just clarifies who may submit a proposal for designation. I believe all that was added there was that any citizen or city property owner sort of clarifies who can submit. It provides minimum submittal requirements for historic designation applications. We have received some applications that are basically a one-page form with not all of the information filled in. So there are certain things that we are now requiring as being essential for two reasons. Number one, it absolutely clarifies it for applicants. But number two, I suppose, and number three, are if it's worth submitting a designation application, surely you can do the most basic of research. And secondly, I don't see how it's possible to say something is eligible for designation if you haven't done the most basic research. So this clarifies that. We're also saying if someone nominates a historic district or a multiple property designation, we need that information for every property. We can't just have someone saying, we would like to designate these 4 blocks because they are significant for their architecture, and that is all we receive. We just believe there should be a bit more to these applications. It also provides a submittal time requirement for applicants when staff has determined a property does not meet the minimum eligibility criteria. And that basically states if staff say a property is not eligible, the applicant must submit a report within 30 days of the determination to bring it to the board themselves. And it must describe in sufficient detail the criteria, and the application will then be scheduled for the next available board meeting where we have enough time to send out the notice. So if an applicant submits 2 days before a board meeting, it's not going to go to that board meeting. It will go to the next one to allow us to provide notice. And then the other change was the one I referred to. A copy of the historic landmark designation must be provided to the property owner no less than 14 days prior to the board review to give them time to look at it, consult with other experts, and plan out what the response is going to be. And the final change is an Article 14 process. This actually just corrects the time period for which determinations of significance are valid. The letters say 18 months, the code said 6 months, so we're just tightening that up, and that is it.
Great, thank you, Mr. Adams.
Can you go back just briefly about who can submit a designation report?
City property owner.
But it says here, to the Historic Preservation Board by the Board of Architects or any citizen or city property owner. So what
Yeah.
does that mean?
I believe there's a definition for citizen.
A citizen is a defined term in the code. I believe it's anybody who resides within the city and is a registered voter.
So you can have a rental, someone who's renting property, who's a registered voter,
Yes,
that can submit a designation report.
yes.
And it doesn't have to be within 500 feet of the property or within the notice. It's anybody in the city.
Currently, there is no limitation. If you'd like to suggest one, we might.
No, I'm just clarifying that's,
Yeah.
I think it should be that way.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And I should clarify as well, this is an opportunity to, if there's anything that you feel should be changed or amended or tightened up, then
Well, we've had people that have said that it should be someone within the affected area that are noticed. And it's always been the city's opinion, I believe, at least as far as I remember, that it should be anyone in the city, because everybody is, as a whole, is affected. So I'm glad to see that's not changing. That's what I was trying to clarify.
Is this not an opportunity to address the issues that we repeatedly encounter with true barrel tile versus S-tile?
not in the code, no.
Yeah.
No, not in the code. No, I mean,
They have materials in our zoning code. It's very
yeah,
bizarre.
I mean,
I mean,
if- I
zoning
mean-
codes don't normally
ev-
have
how-
materials in them.
At least 3 or 4 times a year, if not more, we have this exact issue come before us. Each time we receive a pathetic entreaty from the homeowner. And my thought is, why don't we fix it?
well, I think it's important to point out that the homeowners that come to you have already come to us, and we've sat down with them and we've explained, you must use a barrel tile, you can't use an S tile. What if I want to go to the board? Well, I do not know that the board have ever approved a barrel tile, but it is your right to go to the board. So the ones that come to you are the ones that are really, well, I'm going to go to the board and ask them. So no matter what you,
Well, if it's in the code, they can come to us and ask for a variance. I mean, they still have recourse to come to us. It's just codified.
And I think it'd give additional
just saying.
support to your position.
So I am a major proponent of the conversation of doing that. I'm not sure if this piece of legislation, which is about procedures and process, would be the exact right method to do it, but this is a
That's why I'm raising the issue. Is this the vehicle, or where do we put it so that we put the homeowner or the property owner on notice so that we don't, I many times feel as if the homeowner feels as if they've been ambushed. And we know you've said no, we know that you've said no repeatedly, but this is an issue, and it's been an issue as long as I've been on the board, this time and previous rounds.
Well, they go to a roofing company and the roofer says, no, the S-tile is better, it's cheaper, it looks exactly the same.
Yeah. It's
and
always, it looks exactly the same. No one will know
no
the
one will know the
difference.
difference, and I've done them before in homes in Coral Gables. And then they, they think they're going to spend a certain amount of money and they have to spend more. So it's troubling, I get it.
If I may, I know that this is an issue that we, the board, care deeply about. If I can move back to the legislation for a second, and then if we want to add it at the end, I'm happy to have the conversation again, but I do have a question regarding the language that's been proposed. I don't know. So the one I have is, it talks about, and I think this is good for the applicant, I think it's good for the city. My question is the change on, in what I have, the second page on the top, it says furnishing any necessary information to all necessary information. Does the all information, is that what's described in the previous section, which says the all information inclusive of the property address, the legal description, the tax folio number, location map, date of construction, architectural style, architect if known, color photographs, and written statement? Is that all of it? Is that it?
Yes.
And is this information for somebody who may not be as sophisticated as you all are? Can they come to the?
We gave that some thought, and we were going to request additional things. For instance, I originally had in there, if you want to nominate a district, we want the legal description of the boundaries of the district. But I felt that was really a bit much to ask an applicant. But most of that information is available on the property appraiser's website, the property control number, the legal description, the owner. Anyone submitting a designation application can at least go and see the property and take a photo. I think we would expect that. As we said, the architect isn't always known, and if they're not sure of the architectural style, then they can call us. We just believe that some of these applications are a one-page form with nothing attached.
I appreciate it. I think my question was specifically location map. If a photocopy of the property appraiser's website would be a location map, that's
Property
great.
appraisers, Google Maps, anything at all.
And that they can always come to staff with any questions or comments, and you guys can help them with any information they may. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I think that was the question I had with the information presented before us. Does anybody have any questions with regards to what the staff has provided for us today?
Very clear.
Was this something that staff generated? This
was-
recommendation, was it the city attorney's office?
This was in line, so a bit of background information. A lot of these items that are being addressed are in order to clean up our process, which we frankly lost in the legal battle recently.
Oh,
So we're trying to shore up
that makes
the
sense.
issues that we had in that case so that we don't have this issue again.
What did we lose?
The 649 Palmerito, it was remanded back to the city, and the city has not taken any further action, but it was a property that was designated, and because of certain due process issues, at least according to the courts, the order was remanded.
So, Ms. Rolando, that's sort of why we kind of like to keep this process clean.
Let me just say this. I have no problem whether we're being asked to vote or merely to comment. What I'm saying is, if we are making recommendations or bringing issues to the attention of the city, let's address one that is an issue so that we don't end up in a legal fight and losing the litigation.
Our concern is that putting it in the code would open us up to litigation.
Well, it's vague. I disagree.
That's the reason why we do it on a case-by-case basis. This discussion has happened
Well,
as long as I've been here, and we've discussed it with the administration, and the decision was made that it will be treated as a case-by-case basis.
I think that opens us up for being attacked as being maybe that we're not consistent in our approach. So I think we should be recommending that we have an ordinance about it so that there's some guidance. And as Donna said, if there is truly an issue, the homeowner can come for a variance. instead of being us, 3, 4, 5 times a year dealing with an irate homeowner who, comes to us and says, oh, it's a hardship, or my neighbors have S-tile. I don't like the idea of it being ad hoc each time.
Could it be a policy decision of the Board of Architects that all historic homes need to have true barrel tile? I mean, they have a list that when someone submits to the Board of Architects, these are our guidelines. It's just, I mean, that's not a zoning code list, but it would put people on notice when they try to go to the Board of Architects for roof tile, that if it's historic, it needs to be a true barrel tile. I think the Board of Architects now is saying if it's a 1920s Mediterranean house, regardless if it's designated, it needs to be a true barrel tile.
Caraway, you have to speak into the mic.
There are some historic houses that have flat tile roofs that were appropriate.
Right.
But
I understand, but if it's appropriate to have a barrel tile, it has to be a true barrel tile.
I'm going
I mean,
to take
maybe there are
I'm going
ways
to
to
take
do
a
it
quick
that it
pause.
doesn't-
A quick pause. So, as a discussion item, is there any requested action from the board on the discussion item, or is
Yeah.
it just discussion?
We're looking for a recommendation to the City Commission as to whether you approve these.
And this goes to the Planning and
Planning
Zoning
and
Board,
Zoning
and then
Board,
to
and
the
then
City
City
Commission,
Commission,
because
yeah.
it's a zoning code amendment.
And the second thing is, hasn't this board already directed staff to take a look at the barrel tile issue? And I think the staff has come back a couple of times with comments and no way forward.
I mean-
So I understand, Mr. Orlando, we all share the concern. I think I understand the approach of case by case as far as the city's point of view. Again, I don't want to, I want us to be clear on at least one of the items, which is process and procedures is different than content. But we
Yes.
can also make sort of.
So why don't we vote on this proposal, if that's what is being requested of us, and then talk about the barrel tile issue?
Okay, let's do that.
And I do believe there's a member of the public here who
okay,
may want
thank
to
you.
comment.
Then I will open, thank you, staff. I will open this up to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this zoning amendment?
Hi, my name is Rishi Segal. I speak in favor of the process.
Your address, please?
439 Minorca. So we're doing an addition to our house, and it's going through the Board of Architects process, and everything is fine. I think there was somebody had, I don't want to get too into the weeds on it because it's not that relevant, but basically, homeowners, I think, are fine with going through the process, and frankly, I love what the city does. I think the city's processes, although we have the city has a reputation of it being difficult to work with. That's been not my experience, not with the boards, not with the city staff. I think they've all been fantastic. I think making sure that the process is shored up so that timing, people's plans that are impactful. The gentleman who was up here earlier, our process, thankfully is back on track and we're moving forward in the right way. But if somebody who is not the homeowner or is not the city is going to submit an application, I think the code needs to provide a timing. There needs to be a right time for that to happen so that it doesn't come out of the blue and cause somebody to spend a lot of money and then have to restart all of their plans all over again. So I speak in favor of the amendment. I think it could go a little bit further in terms of clarifying the process and shoring it up so that things move more efficiently. Because not trying to upset the ability to designate homes or not designate homes, but just do it in a process that everybody can see, that's transparent, and moves forward without creating hostilities between neighbors, which I think is what happened in our case. But fortunately, it's all gone away.
Thank you very much. Would somebody like to make a motion to make a recommendation to the board regarding the processes and procedures?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Rolando. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Spain. Can we call the roll, please, on this recommendation?
Mr. Orlando?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrenhaus?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Fullerton,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons,
Yes.
Ms. Spain.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. So, Ms. Rolando, would you like to have a new discussion item?
Yes, or if you want to schedule it for the next meeting, but I do think that we need to address putting architects and homeowners on notice that that the city has this requirement for true burial when it was either in the plans originally, or it's otherwise appropriate. And I don't know the right vehicle, whether it should be in the code, whether it should be in the building code, where it should be, but we have this issue, and I don't think that we are addressing it properly by having it be ad hoc, where whether it happens or not is how persistent the homeowner is.
Mr. Adams, so I know that many of us on this board have had this conversation. I myself made a motion and we passed something for you guys to come back, and the answer was no. What can you do to help us achieve our goal?
I mean, the middle ground may be a set of design guidelines, which isn't in the design guidelines, which most cities I've worked at have. Coral Gables doesn't. It's probably been discussed in the past, and to be honest, I don't know if it is a good idea or not, because things seem to be working pretty well, just going with the Secretary of the Interior standards. But design guidelines is a way to not just address the barrel tiles, but clear glass, high-profile muntins, the other things that we continually as staff have problems with. Now, guidelines are exactly that. They're guidelines. They're not law. But you can have in the guidelines, it is the policy of the city of Coral Gables to only approve two-piece barrel tiles for properties.
That's what I was saying about the Board of Architects, because I know the Board of Architects has this little, at least they used to, they had this drawing of a barrel tile, and they had dimensions on the height of the curve of the tile. And if it was shallower than whatever the heck it was, 3 inches, 4.5 inches, then they would not approve it. And I think they still have that. I mean, they had that for years when I was there, because people would buy cheaper barrel tile that was very flat, and they would pull out this piece of paper at the Board of Architects submittal and hand it to them. Now, if they can do that, they certainly can require true barrel tile. So maybe you all, as staff, have a discussion with the Board of Architects, with the city architect, but also go to the Board of Architects on a Thursday and talk to the chair and the rest of them and ask them how we can deal with the problem. Because everybody has to go to the Board of Architects before they come here on roof tile, I think.
May I interject
No?
another?
Why?
An-
Doesn't somebody have to, we're the only people that are approving roof tile?
Board of Architects staff is normally approving. The only things that go to Board of Architects now are major additions and new construction.
Well, see, gone for 3 years and.
Mr. Ernhaft.
The discussion that you were bringing up had to do with barrel tile versus F. But today, and we did not get into the discussion of it, but the historic building today, I think in 2016, well, it was Art Moderne, and it had the traditional flat tile for that building, and they put S tile on it. So that's not
Right.
1920s, Mediterranean architecture, but it is possibly open for discussion whether that was inappropriate in the same way that
Well,
not doing a two-piece barrel is.
in 1994, when I started working with the city, roofing did not go to the Board of Architects,
Right.
nor did it have any type of design approval. It went to Manny Lopez, the building official,
Right.
and he only looked at it for method of application.
Right.
And that's it. And I was working in zoning then, and everybody thought I was crazy when I said, "What are you talking about? They can't put, these barrel tiles or faux barrel tiles on these 1940s modern buildings. It looks ridiculous." And why are you allowing them to put flat tile on a 1920s Mediterranean? And, I got nowhere. So I didn't help.
So I was only bringing that up as another
Yeah.
example, that
I mean,
if
the
this
city's gotten a
discussion
lot
is
better, but-
going to be had in the future, then we need to think about.
Right. I don't know.
Thank you,
many of the
Mr.
different kinds of
Kernhead. Mr.
architecture
Maxwell?
And what was traditional.
Yeah. Mr. Adams, perhaps your office and the city attorney's office would be so kind as to give us perhaps some guidance at our next meeting on what the appropriate and most effective way to address these are, given the situation that we have, and without putting ourselves in a box, for the future. I would like to do that, and I think that would give us a good guidance in order to achieve that. So thank you.
We can do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Warren. Any old business?
So when will this, assuming that,
How much time do you need, Mr. Adams, to come back with recommendations on how to achieve?
Can probably do it by the next meeting. I mean, yeah.
Could you do it by the next meeting, perhaps?
Okay, so discussion item at the May meeting. Okay, thank you. Any old business?
We're all old business.
A couple of quick questions, if I could. The Santa Maria house with the elevator,
No,
what's the bottom line on that?
that was Granada.
Huh?
it's Granada. It's on Granada.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
was
I
in
reached
San Maria.
out and spoke with the property owner. The various conditions that were in the approval, because it was approved with conditions. One of them was that we had to get someone from the city to go out and inspect the elevator. Apparently, there's no one in the city that inspects elevators, so there was no one there. The property owner did suggest that his architect or his elevator installer could do it, and I said, well, they're the ones that did this in the first place, so why would I let them inspect it? So I eventually got access to go out there. The issue that they had, and why this happened or not, whether a different elevator was proposed and a different one was installed, I don't know. When the elevator is at the top, at the second floor, the workings are above it, and to the side in the wall there is an access hatch to get into it. So the problem is, when the elevator's at the second floor, you need space above the elevator to get into the workings. Me and my limited knowledge of elevators said, well, why couldn't they have done it with a hatch in the roof? Number one, if the elevator's stuck at the bottom on the first floor, that's no use. Number two, if the elevator's stuck at the second floor and they fix it, or they don't fix it and the elevator plummets, that doesn't work either, so that is why they have the access from the side. So the property owner has agreed to, he's got a different architect, he has agreed to provide some drawings where he tries to lower at least the pyramid roof and put a banding round the tower, and that appears to be, that's what we have at the moment, but I haven't seen the amended drawings yet. I have asked for them to be submitted, but they've not been submitted yet.
Okay. I just wanted an update. Secondly, I think it's 1013 Castile. I'll tell you, living next to that house, ever since it's been going through this process, is maddening, because they work on it maybe 2 days a week at the most. I don't know if there's any other legal things going on which prevent them from working or
So
what, but
they have a new owner that came in and is going to finish the job. New contractor, do
how
everything.
long ago was that?
I don't know off the top of my head, and Christina's the one who handles it, but they had a revision to their permit that they needed to reactivate and get approved for all of these changes that the previous the previous contractor had made at his own discretion. That revision just got approved. So if you notice, they just got their windows and doors installed. They are actually now moving. We met out there.
They put the windows in about a month ago,
Yeah, but we met out there.
and they stopped moving as soon as that happened.
Okay, but they are moving forward, I can tell you that. We met with them to go over the stucco sample, which we did not approve, so they have to give us another one. The architect is making a few other revisions, but they are actively moving forward to get that finished under a code issue.
Okay.
So,
Well, the windows look nice. They're,
I know, I was so grateful to see them actually finally in.
yeah.
So,
I'm not sure what remedial work needs to be done on the inside because it's gone on for 5 years with no windows at all, yet work with inside had been done.
Yeah.
Electrical work, framing, things like that. So I'm not sure if you have to take all that down because it was completely open.
yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but they know what they have in store.
Yeah.
So,
It's just that no work is being done.
okay, I can follow up with them.
John, they knew that you were going to take good care of them, so that's why they're doing it.
I'm going to keep a log.
Any other old business? Mr. Furley?
John, you can be clerk of the works. Log in any materials.
That's right.
Or labor on site.
No, I've already been over there visiting. One time when she had this woman who was operating the thing, she had a group, like 30 guys walking into the property, parking on my yard and everything. And so I went over there to see what was going on. I walked in and I started walking up the stairs and she says, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm your neighbor. I just want to see. You don't belong here."
Well, you know,
Which
She
I
wasn't
said,
wrong.
"Well, maybe not, but I figured I could sneak in with all these other people around. Nobody'd notice."
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Maxwell. Thank you.
That was off the
We need
record.
a second.
Second by the chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Little comment, Nancy, was off the record. Okay?
Huh?
That last comment.
It wasn't, which is why I wanted to adjourn.